I should make that the intro, but with no audio. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, the show dedicated to talking about all the poggers things in life, like music, content creation, and video games, with a heavy focus on the first-person shooter Escape from Tarkov. I am one of your co-hosts, JesseKazam. Don't even just...
And I'm Veritas, and dictionary.com defines an introduction as the act of introducing or the state of being introduced, a formal personal presentation of one person or others. I absolutely did my homework. I promise.
Bro, your face is throwing me off. I don't even know why I look at you when I do the intro, bro. I don't even know why I look at you. Oh, God. Well, what's up? How you doing?
You know,
full of life.
Fucking
is one.
It's hard to Mentos freshness
when you're
shit
full of life.
I should have Googled the Mentos lyrics and said that instead of Googling dictionary.com.
You know what we could do to get around the copyright is we just need to get the first official sponsor of the podcast to be Mentos. And then we can just use the song and do the Mentos flip off. You know what I mean? The classic.
So you're saying that you think Mentos would pay us to flip off the camera and butcher the theme song, huh?
I think so. Dude, it's 2021. Marketing is whatever you want it to be. Dude, one of the best, Butterfingers sponsored Deadly Slob for a little bit, and it was so funny.
What?
Oh, yeah, dude. It was so
good. Are you kidding me?
Deadly, okay, I was actually talking about this. Deadly, there are so many brands. Okay, you know how you can tell when a brand is like on top of it for like 2021? Like you can tell when a brand is like leaning into, like they actually give their Twitter account over to like a 13-year-old, so it's funny. It's not like brands trying to be relevant and cringy. Like there's a few, like Wendy's was the first one to like hit it hard.
And we all know that 2021 has been a tough year for everybody.
Yeah.
That's why we're gonna kick it and chill,
exactly.
Netflix and chill style with Mentos, the fresh maker.
Exactly.
I couldn't come up with anything other than
not that, but there's brands that do it well. All of those brands need to sponsor Deadly Slob. Have you ever been in his stream when he does like a NordVPN ad read? Dude,
no.
It's just the best. He is like every
You've been on a Deadly Slob kick. Every other day I get a message from you be like, dude, I was watching Deadly stream.
Dude, it's all I sit he streams all day and I work all day on like YouTube and stuff like that. Every day, 5 days a week, I come in here and I put on Deadly Slob on my other monitor and then I work. So it's always on in the background. This has nothing to do with anything we're talking about tonight, but it's the best like ad read. Like I don't ever want to do a sponsor where I'm like, guys, today we're doing, Raid Chat. Like I want to aspire to be as just like off topic as possible in your ad reads, and it's so perfect.
I wanted to do that with the Internet Historian does fucking great.
Yes, stuff
great,
like that. Like if I was a brand right now, dude, I'd be like shoveling money at people like that. The non-traditional, because it captures people, dude. It's funny. People like look forward. His chat will remind him that he needs to do like an ad read today because they want to sit through it because it's hilarious. Like I was talking to my wife the other day and I was like, every brand needs to be sponsoring Deadly Slob. Like he's just so good at it. But I digress.
So this episode is sponsored by Deadly Slob.
Sponsored by Deadly Slob. Yes, 100%. Okay. So how much Tarkov have you played since last week's Game is Bad? Big.
I played every day.
Okay.
Most days of every day.
Because I've been super busy this past week. I saw you on Assetto doing the VR thing one day, and I just wasn't sure if I was like, oh man, is he just like already
4 or 5 hours?
Yeah,
that was after 4 or 5 hours.
I watched a few minutes because I was like, damn, that setup looks crazy.
Yeah,
but I just wasn't sure if it was like how things had been feeling after last week.
I mean, same.
Yeah.
Same, dude. Not much has changed. After I don't know when I tweeted my tweet.
Oh yeah, because that was
everything
after.
feels like
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Was that after the podcast?
I think
or
it
before
was.
The podcast?
I think it was like the day after.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I ended up tweeting just that I was like super frustrated with the state of everything, and I won't go into a ton of details, but between the last podcast and today, been chatting with some of the folks at BSG trying to.
Oh, okay, cool.
Trying to figure some shit out.
Yeah.
A lot of people have reached out about like the Discord and being like, I would totally help. A bunch of people volunteered. Someone even like set up a fucking server, basically.
Yeah. I got that message too.
I haven't responded yet. I feel bad about, but I have like a massive fucking backlog of folks I gotta get back to. Anyway, so right now I'm just trying to figure out if it's gonna be worth our time.
100%.
Or not. It really does depend. I don't want to waste any more of my time or any of the community's time if it's going to be kind of more of the same. I've had a bunch of people. I've never really had much interactions with BSG support officially. Like even if I report a bug, chances are the next day if they want me to follow up, I'm probably like, don't fucking care anymore. To be totally honest with you, it's like I'm not gonna pull up a fucking logs from 3 days ago from something I forget that I reported. So and especially now that I've seen some of the responses, some of the things that people will send where it's like they experience connection issues or desync or whatever, and people stuttering around all over the place, like I talk about in my netcode video, and like granted a lot of this is translated, but it mostly comes down to like fix your computer's performance, get more RAM kind of stuff, when there's like paragraphs of explanation and here are the logs and here's the video and here's all this stuff and there's all this effort, and then so if we go forward with something, I want it to be not remotely even close to what like support is. It would have to be much more streamlined. Like I would want to have an in with like somebody at BSG in particular that would field filtered, optimized reports and information, because
I completely agree. I think the response to last week's podcast. So this was actually something that I like noticed and just kind of noted in my brain. So your tweet, you tweeted out and you were obviously very frustrated.
And it fucking blew up. That's like one of the most popular tweets I've ever tweeted.
So your tweet, so this is definitely not the like, let's just come here and poo-poo on Battle State games or Escape from Tarkov. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can go to Reddit if you want to do that. But your tweet was out there. And then I just kind of started realizing how many tweets like that were coming out, and not from people that were traditionally very openly critical about the game. People that were traditionally either very silent about the game on Twitter because it's like, whatever, like I never really post anything about the game other than like, hey, my new YouTube video.
Or generally neutral, like generally things don't seem to be bad for me.
Or generally neutral, or even some of the larger creators that are more, this was another tick in the box, some of the larger creators that play Tarkov that are more variety-focused gamers that have put big seasons into Escape from Tarkov. A lot of them were tweeting out things either like, I can't play Tarkov right now, or Tarkov's been super frustrating, or this, that, echoing a lot of the things you said. I noticed there were a lot of comments even to your tweet from similar people like that. Of course, there was a lot of there's always the like status quo of people just spewing hate on Twitter. And then there were a certain amount of those people responding to your tweets. But what I was noticing, what I was putting together, and I actually started screenshotting it because I wanted to basically like log it, was like all this from people who would traditionally be a lot more positive. So that was like one thing where I was like, man, this is not just us, right? You know what I mean? It's not just like this. It's not just this. It was chamber.
Just me for more than 6 months. It was just me. And this, what we're experiencing right now, is exactly what I was experiencing the whole time.
Yeah. So this isn't just this like little echo chamber of the podcast. Like other people are obviously experiencing some of these same issues and same frustrations. And then it was really interesting to see the basically like complete contrast of that response and the timeliness of our last podcast. So like, right. So none of those people that I talked about probably listen to our podcast. You know what I mean? Like none of those, which is totally fine. That's not, but it was just so interestingly timely that the last episode came out, which was like, can we help? And that was the whole discussion about that lined up at the same time. And so then now my Twitter feed is like blown up with basically like 2 different types of tweets or responses. It was like at JesseKazam, at Veritas, yo, just finished the episode. I think that's a great idea. I think it's needed. I moderate these servers. I'd love to help you out. It was like that, or it was insert random streamer being like, hey, I think I need to take a break from Tarkov. I just can't play it right now. And I was like, oh my God, if there was ever like a indication that something like this, that something needed to be done. Now, here's where I want to come in and say, like, everybody that responded, like, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Like, I think if anything was going to happen, A, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. And B, you know what I mean? We'd have to be really careful. So I appreciate all the response we've gotten to it. But this is all predicated on like mountainous things happening. One of those things is like buy-in from Battlestate Games, right? Like neither of us are going to take any more time out of our week to like facilitate large portions of the community talking about bugs or things if this information doesn't get passed on and nothing happens from it, right? And I think that's part of what you were saying in the background. You're having talks. I don't know what those talks look like, but it's like people need to know that right, like this isn't just, we don't want this to turn into another like community echo chamber of things that are wrong with the game. It's like you're busy with like 900 different projects you got going on. I do my YouTube videos, my streams. I got a wife and 2 kids. There's like big mountainous things have to kind of lock in for us to move forward in any way with like an official thing. You know what I mean? But I just found it so interesting that it felt like both of those bombs just exploded on Twitter. There was so much love for that episode and being like, I couldn't agree more. I want to help. And then at the same time, there was just like this tidal wave of like, I just can't take Tarkov right now. You know what I mean? So it was really interesting.
Yeah. So where I'm at currently right now, effectively, we all know about what I talked about last week with the waiting after raids, the fucking spinner.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I'm kind of using that right now as a bit of a not really like a test run, but it's like this is the lowest hanging fucking fruit ever. It's something so goddamn simple.
Yeah, because you can reverse engineer it a little bit and peek behind the curtain by downloading the logs and seeing that RT, whatever it is.
Yeah, the trace route.
Trace route.
But so, like, they're not going to be issues that are going to be much easier to solve than this. And so since that tweet and since I've been chatting with those guys, I've been essentially like, help with this, please, God, it's been too long.
Yeah,
I've sent you everything you guys need, kind of thing. And every day I kind of get like a check back tomorrow sort of thing.
Yeah.
And today was supposed to be the day, and I got told it's gonna be tomorrow. So I really was hoping to have something to like report about.
Be like, oh,
that.
Look, like, yeah, we.
And I don't know. I don't know if the response I'm gonna get is gonna be like as detailed as we figured it out. Everything you said was super helpful and relevant, and there's gonna be a fix coming soon, or if it's gonna be like, yeah, they're looking into it. Thanks.
Yeah.
So it's like, honestly, how that conversation goes is going to very heavily affect, I think, how we move forward with this.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I don't think
because they have to be bought in. They have to be bought in.
There's no better. Yeah, there's no better of a way of initiating this than like me and my contacts that I already talked to at BSG. If I can't do that with one thing, then a community's worth of things.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be worth it. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and I think like that. Oh, man, I know. I wish I could just like talk to him. You know what I mean? Because like another like low hanging fruit, but for different reasons, is like the Shoreline audio. Like I just want to ask, like, are you aware of it? And like
they are.
And the thing that you talk about all the time is like okay, so like the word competitive, I want to define how I'm using that here. Not competitive in the sense it's like esports ready, but in a game where you're like risking your loot, right? Where when you die, it's not respawn. It's like you can go poor in this game and have a bad, there are stakes. In a game with stakes, that's a shooter video game. You say this all the time when we're talking about the netcode. There is nothing of higher priority than being able to trust your sight and your hearing. Like that is how these games are played, right? Like you have to be able to see an enemy and you have to be able to hear an enemy. And
see an enemy.
See an enemy. Oh wow. And the fact that we're early wipe, because this has been happening since day one of the wipe. There are so many quests on Shoreline. There's so many quests in the East Wing. Like this is just like, this is affecting everybody. It's so unhinged. It's so broken. It's so bad that the fact that there has not even been like we know something got really messed up. You know, it's going to take a few weeks. We're sorry. You know what I mean? Like the fact that hasn't even happened is mind blowing. So then I go down the road where it's like, there's no way they don't know about this, but maybe they don't know about this because it's been a month and you can't hear anything on that map. It's crazy. Yeah, so that's like, the spinning wheel is low-hanging fruit because it's like it's basically fixable from what you can tell, and the Shoreline audio is just like a huge example of do they know about this? If no, we need to have a conversation. If yes, we also need to have a conversation because that's a big enough bug that I feel like you want to let your community know that you know about it. You know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, everybody's, you know, gamma containers are disappearing randomly and that happens for a month and they don't even acknowledge it. You know what I mean? It's like, they're working on it. We're working. But it's like, dude, I understand that they might have other things that we don't see, but it just comes down to like, I feel like so much of the frustration that we're seeing on Twitter from the like vitriolic, just absolute terrible stuff you see all the way up to like, I can't play this game anymore. Everything fundamentally boils down almost into like two categories of like misunderstanding how games and game design work, or the other bucket you can put them in is people that don't feel like their concerns are addressed or are heard, even on the radar of BSG. When you really start to look through it, whether it's some dude just complaining, or whether it's like the best of us going to Twitter and saying, hey, I need some time off. If you really look through it, you can put almost every negative thing said into one of those two buckets. And what's crazy is that it doesn't require them to change the order of what they're developing. It doesn't require them to change the order of what they're fixing. It doesn't require them to put out new content or postpone a gun. They can develop the game the exact same way, but spend a few hours a month coming out and saying like, hey, these concerns, you need to understand that that's not how these things work. You know, it's not our job to educate you, but this is how it is. We're going to be working on these things first. And then this bucket to be like, it's really easy to be like, hey, we see that these bugs exist. There's other stuff going on. Like, I think the fear is that like, they don't owe us anything. They don't owe me like a grand explanation. But even just being like, we know the Shoreline.
They're helping themselves.
Even if all they have to do is say, I know this is a thing. We've got more important things. I know that sounds crazy, but we're working on it. I think they don't realize that they don't have to change how they're developing the game to really address both of those buckets. And of course, you're not going to make everybody happy. Of course, you're not going to imagine, you know, tomorrow the Tarkov community isn't going to be like, oh man, this is such a great game. But you can really, like you said, they can help themselves in the long run massively without having to change how they develop the game by just putting themselves in the shoes of the gamer and being like, I just want to acknowledge your feelings. Like, you know what I mean? That sounds silly, but they could buy themselves so much currency back from the community if they make people feel like their concerns are heard, and if they help educate them on like, no, that's not. Nikita used to do that with cheaters all the time. He would just be like, he used to talk about it. He used to talk about how like, listen, they make cheats and BattleEye can't detect the cheat before it's detected the cheat. So there's always going to be a zone where the cheat's in there. And that was it. He didn't have to go in deep into like the trade secrets of BattlEye. He didn't have to excuse anything. He just gave us a tiny little bit of information, and most of the people with 2 brain cells could be like, okay, I guess I understand that. You know, they only have to give us a little bit about each thing. Like, hey, we know the audio seems like it's simple to fix for you. There's a lot of logic on the back end. We're working on this. It'll be a few weeks. That buys them a lot more than they think. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
And for all we know, it's like another valid answer to that issue is, hey, we know what the problem is. It would be kind of a pain in the ass for us to finish right now, but when we finish the upgrade to Unity, then it's like moot. So it's like not worth doing now. Well, that's an answer.
That is an answer.
If it's going to take you a month to fix, or you can not do it and in 2 months it'll go away, like,
dude,
I might not agree, but it's like,
yes,
it acknowledges that you recognize that there's a problem, so that we know at some point to look forward to a fix, not to just sit there while the roof is leaking on us.
100%. That's such a great point. It's like, exactly. Just bring me to the point where I can say, I disagree with that, but at least I understand. My fear is that they think that if they give an inch, they have to give a mile. That if they give an inch, that they have to like do everything we say. And it's like, no. People are still going to disagree with you. People are going to this. But just bring us to the point where we can be like, exactly that. Because I bet there's so many things like that where it's like, fix this. And it's like, we don't need to fix this because we're developing this. And once this is implemented, it fixes this and this and this and this. So our time is better spent fixing this. And by just saying that, you might have people that disagree, but at least there's an answer. I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. Every single time they push out one of these, micro updates that they've been doing almost daily at this point. Hey, servers were reducing the raid times. Every time it feels like they intentionally don't tell us what they're fixing, because I don't know why. So what happens is everybody in the community defaults to the most common bug they experience, and they hope it fixes that. So they, in an attempt to not set expectations that they can't keep, they allow the entire community to set hundreds and thousands of expectations, and then they fall short of hundreds of thousands of expectations, as opposed to just saying like, this is strictly a server-side thing, nothing in the game is being changed. If they just said that, now they've set the expectation. And so they create this pain for themselves because they're allowing the community, which is a community of gamers, right? We're not necessarily, we're not physicists, a community of gamers, to fill in the blank. And that's never a good idea. You know what I mean? We're all filling in the blank with different things, and then we all get frustrated when it doesn't happen, and then they do another update the next day and we think maybe this is it. Because we're all like, because I'm out here playing with geeks and I'm having a hard time not saying out loud, how has it been a month and they haven't fixed the audio in Shoreline? You know what I mean? But I don't want to say that out loud because I don't want to like perpetuate this whole negativity. But even I'm like, how is this going on? So they just keep letting everybody fill in their own expectations, and then it lets everybody down all at once. And it's like, oh, I don't know.
I mean, like something that I feel like I've seen kind of both sides of, and many different times from different people, is the idea of it's not quite like a double standard, but the whole like, of course we know about the issue.
Yeah.
Or how could we have ever known about that issue? We've never gotten reports about it.
Yes.
So it's like, like, I'm offended you haven't told me. I'm offended you told me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. To where,
and that exact thing,
I'm talking about,
100%. And that exact thing happens on the inverse too. Like the average player might think there's no way they don't know about this, and then the guy he's playing with might be like, how do they not know about this? You know what I mean? About the same issue. We were, after the podcast I was playing, and this is such a simple thing. This is not a 911 they need to fix. But I'm just looking at the game through a different lens now. On Shoreline, the freaking boat extract. You know how like you can't tell if it's open? Like it's such a convenient extract if it's open.
It's been broken
for years.
For what? Yeah, year. And it's just like a light.
Actual years, yeah. And it's funny because I had never looked at it through this lens ever. I ran out all the way onto the pier. It wasn't open. I'm running back and it hit me and I'm like, chat. I was like, what if they don't know the freaking light is broken? And we laughed because this was just coming off the podcast maybe a day or two later, and I was like I had never considered that. Every bug, I'm always like, well, of course they're working on it. I always just give them, and I was like, what if they don't know that the stupid, light set, true? It's just false forever, and they don't even know. And it was so.
The only way that they would know about that, the most likely scenario for me, honestly, is that like Clean 18 months ago on a podcast must have said, and for God's sake, fix the extract for Shoreline, and that's probably the extent. Like, if he didn't do that thing, then it's probably never been,
And I was like, and we just laughed about it because that in no way is like a priority over some of the bugs that are in the game. But I've been playing the game through that lens where I'm like, damn.
But what is a priority?
This is but that's the whole other thing is like if there's a priority, then I would love to know at least once again loosely how that's structured. They don't have to. Once again, my desire isn't for them to have to like just be beholden to us and tell us everything. Like, no. But even just like we're working on networking bugs first and then this and then that, like it at least gives us something because exactly that. I don't know what a priority is. I would assume a priority would be being able to hear on one of the most popular maps in the game. But it doesn't appear to be at the top. Like, and once again, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth too hard because like there is a universe that whatever has broken the Shoreline audio they've been working on from day one, and it's just going to take 3 more months. Like there is a universe where they mess something up so bad, but in that universe, they don't owe us anything, but it feels like it's a win for both sides to tell us that. It doesn't feel like it's this huge admission of guilt. We messed up. We should have done the audio differently. It feels like if it's going to take you 2 months to fix the audio, you have to understand that once again, we're gamers. All we know is that yesterday, in the pre-wipe event, it worked fine. And today it's garbage. And then a month goes by. And if you don't fill in those blanks, once again, we'll fill them in. And what people have been filling them in with is they don't care. They don't even know. They're so lazy.
Aliens, Bigfoot, 9/11.
Yeah. It's just the
Illuminati.
cheaters. It's the cheaters broke the audio. It's a Steam audio thing. Everybody's filling in the blanks. And it's like, what I'm asking for isn't inherently selfish. I truly believe this benefits Battle State games in the mid to long term. And it buys them some empathy from the community, which up until this week, I don't think I realized how much they need. So I'm definitely not here to say I know how to develop the game better than they do. I don't know how to QA better than they do. I don't know what things they're working on or what they aren't. All I'm saying is that to me, it seems pretty simple that it's a win-win to go hand in hand with the community, right? And not just be like, wait and see. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I'm with you, and we're gonna have to see. I think I mentioned last time. I think I sent the message to Nikita, and hadn't got a response back asking about the Shoreline audio thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was July 22nd. Is today the 29th?
Today's the 29th. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was during the podcast.
Damn, and I was so excited to hear what you had to say about it too.
7:14 p.m. I said, "Are you guys aware of the relatively new Shoreline Resort audio issues?"
Bro,
question mark.
It's 7:14
and the next
p.m.
day,
right now. An exact week.
Like, wow, that's fucked.
All right, sorry. Continue.
And then 5, 6, 7 hours later, which was 2 a.m. for me, Nikita responded with, "Yes."
Okay.
So they're aware of some audio issues on Shoreline. There's a world in which that's a different set of issues than, yes, we've had issues for 2 years now with, occlusion, and they don't realize it's new. I wrote relatively new Shoreline Resort issues. He said, yes. Fuck if I know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude, it's hard. I like freaking, this is the stuff that keeps me up because like the last thing I want to do is, and this is a great metaphor that you will understand, is be the guy that comes into chat and is like, oh, did you know that you can buy this ammo from the trader and it's better? You know what I mean? And we're like, dude, you know what I mean? I could write you a novel on how much more about this game I know than you and why I'm choosing this specific thing in this specific instance. I just died 17 raids in a row and I'm doing a budget kit. Boom. I think about this a lot, that the absolute last thing I want to do is be that guy, is to show up to Battle State in their DMs or whatever and be like, this is how I think you should interact with the community. But I can't see any other way. Like, I can't see outside of this perspective of like, I live and breathe this game. I play it a lot. I have I feel an above average amount of empathy for them as the developers. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know how to hold those two things where there is a universe where like you and me and part of the community work on a thing that can really, without emotion, streamline and acknowledge issues in the game. And that information can be helpful to Battle State and it can be sick. But there's also just a universe where I feel like I just sever every relationship I have with them because they view me as that chatter and they don't want, and I don't want that either.
So, I mean, I go back and forth on this because there's so many ways that this is manifested in the past, whether it's been on podcasts or in public conversations, private conversations, groups, one-on-ones, whatever. How it's like at the same time, they're both like extremely close to the community and like communicate with the community, but then at the same time, like not at all. It's so weird for me to say, but I feel like they're so much closer than like, you know, Ubisoft is.
For sure.
But at the same time, it's like, but not. But maybe it's like the wrong type of close, or they're close with the wrong people. I don't know.
Not even wrong. I just think that there's an important slice of the pie missing. What they do is great. Yeah, Ubisoft isn't retweeting, you know, X creator with 32 subs videos like BSG is. That's awesome, and that's close to the community. But maybe there's a slice of the pie that's missing.
I feel like the way that we go about communicating, there's something about it, I think, fundamentally that has to change, because there's a lot less like discussion and more of, I'm going to ask a question, you give me an answer. I'm going to make a statement, you have a response. Like, just role play a conversation.
Yeah.
But I'll play both sides of it. It's, are you familiar at all with the bug with Shoreline audio? Yes. Okay. Are you guys going to fix it? Yes. I don't want to ask when, because that's, you know, that's one of those like, well, when are you going to fix it? Well, I can't tell you when. I don't know. There's priorities and blah, blah, blah. Now, just to be clear, the issue I'm talking about is with like the East Wing sounds like you're fucking outside, but then like, oh wait, what? What about outside? What we're talking about was like it's a bug with firing guns. We're aware of that and we're working on it. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if this bug has anything to do with that, but it's like when I'm in Shoreline, the resort, I can hear like the rain falling indoors like it's outside, but then like once I go across like the little sky bridge, all of a sudden I'm indoors with the audio. Oh yeah, you'll have to send us logs. Okay.
Yep.
But it's like I never actually get, like, I would love a conversation where they would say, oh, well, okay, we're aware that there is like a boundary where when you're outside, there's outside audio. As soon as you cross over that threshold, you walk past the literal threshold of a door, and all of a sudden you get indoor. We know Steam Audio will fix that in the future, blah, blah, blah. So what you're saying is it sounds like those boundaries are no longer in the doorways, but like randomly moved around. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's definitely not supposed to happen, and we haven't heard about that. I'll make sure someone looks into it. Or we absolutely, someone's looking into it. It has to do with something. You don't need the details, but yeah, we're on it.
Exactly.
Cool. But that kind of conversation never happens.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is I try to tiptoe in if we're on like a podcast, and I'm like, the audio occlusion, whatever, and then everybody else jumps in, tries to clarify what I mean. They don't get it right. I can't fucking say what I mean to say. Nikita doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about. And he just says, yeah, all the bugs are going to get fixed. Don't worry about it. And then we move on to some bullshit we've talked about 800 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's never...
Yeah.
I feel like there's never an actual meaningful conversation about like, this is how... And part of it is Nikita is close enough, but not that close. Like, and I'm just I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I assume that he's not the one writing the code every day.
Yep.
And that he's also not the one playing the game every day. I'm just putting him in the spot of like every manager I've ever had that has like a really high level understanding of things.
Yeah.
But you don't ever want to like make any specific claims because then like you don't know the details, right? So you don't want to say something you're not sure of. So I always get the impression that like Nikita can't speak to a lot of the specific details that you would only get if you implemented it or you played it every day.
Yeah.
So
and that makes sense because he's got everything
and that makes sense. Yeah. And maybe that explains why it's so hard to communicate. Like the zeroing thing is a perfect example where it was like I couldn't explain where the game was, where it should have been, where people thought it was, and then where it was, and then how it is in real life.
Yeah.
Those 7 different things, because there's 8 other people on the podcast, and they all had 8 different perspectives. It's like you can't have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. It makes sense, and that's almost where I don't like. If I ever got to talk to anybody, I would almost want to like flip the script and be like, what do you want from us as the community? What is?
How do you want the game to describe how this feature should work?
No, yeah, I mean that. No, but more of like, what do you want from us? Like the game is in beta, right? Like you put that in big bold letters. Like I don't care if you don't, whatever your definition of beta is. Whatever.
I can answer for you. I know what they're gonna say.
Like, what do you?
You play, you experience bug, you report bug.
Yeah, but like,
that's it.
Then give us a way to report bugs in game. You know what I mean? It's like there's a bug reporter.
There's a bug reporter in the launcher. Just open up the launcher and click through, and even though all of our responses give you no feeling of confidence that we're listening, that we're doing anything, we just keep doing it, and it's helping.
Yeah.
Can't you see it's helping?
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though.
In fact, it makes me question. Like every time something happens, where I mention like shoreline audio, like if this isn't fixed a month from now and we hear nothing, the only logical thing I'm gonna conclude is they don't care or whatever, or that I was talking about a shoreline audio bug and Nikita was talking about a completely different shoreline audio bug.
Yeah.
And they fixed that one that nobody ever experienced and it's super obscure, and they didn't fix the one that I was talking about because I can never explain the specifics without sounding like I'm a pedantic asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. I get it. Like I think it makes total sense what you're saying. Like, of course, Nikita. I don't think anybody thinks Nikita has he probably has the most complete view of what the game is, but that almost requires that he can't have, know everything about the minutia of every little thing. So like I don't expect him to, but that's why in my perfect world we like get somebody who does. We do like a freaking state of the game every month with not Nikita, with somebody who can talk about this stuff. That's why it's like my perfect version of whatever this is that we could potentially build is just like completely and strictly emotionless. It's just, I experienced this bug today under these circumstances. It can get upvoted or downvoted. And then, once a month, we take the top things. We'll be like, look, tens of thousands of people are experiencing this bug under these circumstances. Here's the information. Boom, get it. And for somebody else other than Nikita to be able to be like, yeah, okay, we see that. We see, because that's going back to what you were saying. It's a one-sided conversation. Are you aware of this bug? Yes. You know what I mean? It's just like not.
Are you sure?
Not
this
yes.
specific bug?
Yeah. There's no I think so. You know, what specifically you're talking about? Or yeah, are you talking about this? Or yes, comma, we've been working on it for a while. It's really got us stumped. You know what I mean? Like none of those things happen. And so it's just like, what do you want from the community? You know what I mean? Because it's like, even if you want us to report bugs, like, you know what I mean? How many bugs are getting reported via the report feature right now? Like, obviously you don't know, but I'm saying like, that would be my question. Like not number, well, you know, it's like the whole, would you say, are you happy about the amount? Are you, neutral about the amount, or are you dissatisfied with the amount of bugs being
circle the happy face,
yes,
the sad face, or the neutral face
of the amount of bugs? Because if your answer is we are very dissatisfied with the amount of bugs being reported, well then there's your answer, bro. That's on you. Like, you know what I mean? Nowhere. I'm fresh. Day one, I download the game. My buddy tells me to do it. I open the game. Boom, I experience a bug. I crashed 62 times. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go online. Like, where in the game does it tell me how to report a bug? Where in the game, like, you know what I mean? It's a tiny little freaking actual icon of a butterfly or whatever, a bug. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's like, so if you want that from the community and you are getting a vastly less than satisfactory, report of those bugs, that's not on me as the player to like go dive through the technical documentation. Like, show me what you want from me. And that's what I'm saying. Equip me, weaponize me for what you want, BSG. Once again, this isn't an inherently selfish, I just want to be in the know. I just want to be like the big streamers and have Nikita's cell phone number. No, this benefits you. Like, what do you want from your community? What do you want from your players? What do you want from your gamers? Because you don't actually tell us that ever at all. It's been so long since they've talked about reporting bugs on any podcast or anything. And so it's like, if there's something else we can do that's better, let's do that. But even if it's just use the report feature, give somebody the weekend task of implementing a button in game where they can do it and tell us you want us to do that more often. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, it feels like a fucking uphill battle.
I agree. I agree. This is 50% venting, 50% like we can make it happen. You know what I mean? I understand that it is an uphill battle and it's hard and there's time differences and language barriers and I'm sure that they are more frustrated than we are. You know what I mean? I'm sure that the guys who do look at the Twitter, Dimitri or Tobias or the guys that, are on the PR team, I'm sure they get even more frustrated than we do because they probably have the information of the like, man, if they just knew that what they're saying is meaningless and wouldn't fix anything, man, they would just shut up. And it's like, I know that you can't tell us everything. I know that you can't, you know what I mean? Like that, but
wow. In a perfect world, and this is something I would never really even like try to do, but in a perfect world, I would instantiate myself as the fucking like project manager. Okay. And it doesn't need to be me, but I literally know all the things that I would do and how I would like what I would want. And what it would be is it would be communicating what are the from a really high level, what are the things that we're prioritizing? What are the things that we want your feedback on? And also the things we want your feedback on, what are the high level goals and like design ideas or concepts that we're going for with a particular feature. So with all of that in mind, you can then give us feedback. Like if they say, we've implemented Scav Karma. The main goal of Scav Karma is to get Scavs to cooperate between each other, to have all these different interactions, blah, 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 blah. And even potentially on some maps to have PMCs and Scavs cooperate with this, and this. Yeah. And this is what we're hoping for. We've added these 3 mechanics because this is what we think is going to push players to do this, X, Y, and Z. And here's how we're going to reward and incentivize that. So now it's like, okay, you just spoke for 15 seconds, and now I have an infinitely more, an understanding of what you're going for. Yeah. So that now when I have the experience, I can then look at it through that lens and then figure out success or no success.
Yep.
So, did you get a chance to see my optics rework video?
Part of it, I haven't been able to finish it yet.
The whole idea there is I don't know what the fuck they were going for.
Yeah.
But if it was realism, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
If it was consistency, it wasn't good. If it was for, usability, some were good, some were bad. So like, what the fuck was it?
Yeah.
And everybody was saying, oh, dude, your score didn't. It was so meaningless, but you went +2, -2, +1, and then at the end you ended up with 0. So what does that mean? They shouldn't have done anything at all? Wow, that's an interesting conclusion. It's amazing that you did a bunch of fucking work. You lifted a bunch of things and then dropped it and then lifted it and then dropped it and lifted it and then you started right back where you fucking started.
Yeah.
This is just one metric, but that's a way of looking at it.
But once again, if you let us fill in the blanks for all by yourself, you got 50% of the community being like, yeah, this is great because these are more realistic, or no, they failed because they're not more realistic. And then you got people being like, well, they're supposed to be, everybody fills in the blank and nobody knows exactly what the point was from them. And by the way, this isn't rocket science, right? Like every company that makes a product ever does this, right? They do QA, they do testing, they want feedback from the people they're going to be selling to because they want to make more money. So we're not talking about like features necessarily. I mean that too, but like, yeah, I just don't understand.
The way here's the way that it worked at because I think there's a lot of overlap between what they do or what I don't know what they do. I don't know about anything about their processes, and their processes could be completely different, and maybe that's part of the problem. Yeah. I have no idea. But like typically the way it works when I was on a team of 20 engineers at the robotics company is let's say the robot was adding a fucking flamethrower. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The robot guys are working on that. If I'm working on the mobile app, I know that okay, this is what the flamethrower is going to do. We want to add, and there would be a product manager and either a designer or whatever we'd all sit down, engineer, product owner, who's representing the user basically.
Yeah.
And that's when you write like a user story, which is basically like, as a user, I want to be able to use a flamethrower on my robot from my mobile app. These are the reasons why, and these are the things I want to accomplish. That's how like a story is written. And then user story 1, 2, 3, add a fucking flamethrower to the app would get assigned to me, and I would sit down and we'd figure out, okay, what are the things I need to do to implement this? What are the requirements? Okay, it has to be accessible from this screen. It needs to be one button press, and if there's an error, then you're going to show this error message, or if you get an error from the robot, this error message, or if you get some connection error, in all other cases, show this generic connection message. Here's the asset, the PNG for what the fire icon is going to look like. And great. How long do you think that's going to take? And I think, and I say, okay, well, I know how to make a screen, and I need to make a new communication to the robot, and all I'm doing is sending a packet that says flamethrower on. Okay, and it's using all the same protocols. Cool. That's a 2-point. It might take me a couple of days. Great. So then what I do is now I know what it should look like and what it should do. So then when I build it, nobody's going to be surprised. I give it to QA, and when QA looks at it, they take the user story and they use it and look at the requirements, look at what happened, and if it doesn't meet it, they send it back to me and say, you do it again.
Yeah.
Like, it's not right. It doesn't take like a lot of work to take something like a user story, which is effectively you just scribble it on a fucking post-it note, and then give it to, hi, I'm a guy who's not an engineer, who's not covered in Cheeto dust, and I represent the company, and we're working on a feature that's going to do this, and this from a high level, none of the technical details.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to say, we want to make this, and this is what we want, and let us know how it goes. It's going to be out next week.
Yep.
And the thing is that like the reason why I said I volunteer myself is because I feel like I'm also on both sides of this, where a bunch of people are saying these developers are fucking incompetent and stupid and lazy.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them like why, like defending the developers while also like not like I'm on both sides.
For sure.
Of it. So like I think, and I really am not signing myself up for this, but like I want me to do it because I don't fucking know anybody that I think could do it the same way. But someone who can explain why things are complicated in a simple way, in a reasonable way, not just like just because it is and it's complicated and you don't get it, but like in the way that I did some of my Getting Tarkov videos, where it's like, this is why it's actually complicated and networking is hard. And here's, like.
Exactly.
Fuck,
and that's where I keep circling back around to as well. That's what I was trying to communicate earlier, where it's like, I don't want them to think that one step in the right direction is all the steps. I don't want them to think that like, oh, what we want for them is all the cards on the table for them to tell us exactly what the priority level is of every single thing and why, because that oh my God, like imagine.
Don't give us a date. We don't want fucking
we don't even want
dates on
dates.
things.
But yeah, it's like imagine somebody asking you, like when people would ask you about the battle buddy thing. It's like, of course you're not going to lay out everything that would be required in that feature. You'd be like, look, this is what I want it to look like, and hopefully it'll be out in the next few months. I don't want them to think that what we want is everything. Literally just exactly that. Somebody to be like, at a high level, this is what we want this feature to look like, and this is what we hope it does to the game. So then now as the player, I can be like, oh my God, this didn't do that to the game, or it did that well. And we want that person to also be like, yeah, we're aware that these issues are going on. The respective teams are made aware of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, like a once a month state of the game where a guy separate from the development team could do that and just like get into the nitty gritty with chat. Okay, yeah, we know it's a shoreline thing, but where are you guys experiencing it? And chat's like east wing.
That would be my thing if I was to start it on the show up tomorrow. Doing like a stream would be great because you can sit and talk to chat. Yeah. But like the lowest hanging fruit is 2 Reddit posts, one that's always potentially updated or at least like once. It's basically like this. These are the major high level things we're working on. I don't want like a lot of times they end up being like, we're not going to give you our fucking Jira board, which is essentially all the user stories and what week they're in and who they're assigned to. Like, I don't fucking care about that. We don't need that granular.
Nope.
But just be like, we're working on streets, we're working on this, but like a little bit more detailed than what they give us, which is we're working on streets, because you've said that for a million
4
times.
Years, yeah.
But I also want to know, like, we're finishing up the textures and the loot distribution on streets. The next 3 things are these, 2 or 3 things that we're planning on doing. Yeah. So then nobody's going to ask, when is it going to be done? We now know, or at least you can make an estimated guess around what would be reasonable. Oh, okay, it's not decades and it's not minutes. It's weeks or months.
And they can keep us.
But then I would
go ahead.
No, but, so I would have what we're working on, and then I would have a thread that is constantly circulating that is, what are the major like top issues that we're aware of and we're working on. And part of that is so that you stop report. Like at some point we don't need more fucking reports.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I feel like everything's so shitty with the networking that whenever anybody says anything with the networking, they're just roll their eyes, they just roll their eyes, and you get some canned response back because the responses are always like, download more RAM. Have you looked into your USB slots? Like it's either that they are completely unaware and they have no idea, or that the customer support is completely disjoint from engineering, which is also a possibility. And I've worked at companies before where I knew the problem and I knew exactly what the fix was, and customer service was telling them the wrong thing for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it was making the problem worse.
Yeah.
So like that's also something to keep in mind.
For sure.
But like just knowing what you're working on and what are the hopes and goals of those things from a gameplay perspective, because when we have that, the problem is that when we have that, we have something to judge it against to know if they fail or not. But you need to fully understand and digest what's the goal of the feature, which I don't know that necessarily they have. They might just say, hey, fucking Steve, you're working on Scav Karma. You have 2 months, go for it. And then it's like whatever Steve can come up with, let's give it a shot. They might not have full fucking product owners and broken down user stories and a timeline. Like I don't know what they have.
That's true.
So if they don't have any of that, then it's completely impossible because Nikita doesn't know.
Yeah.
All Nikita said is, Scav Karma, we want people to get along. Yeah. You know what that means, right? Okay, cool.
You're going to have that done for 12/11, right? And he's like...
But like, if I would, if this conversation happened at the robotics company, there would have been 7 people all yelling at each other about whether it should be 0.1, 0.5, or 0.05 or 0.01, and all the different use cases for all the scav karma and all that stuff, and a whiteboard with everything fully fleshed out, and 2 weeks of fucking arguments and debates about what the right thing to do is, with some sort of in the middle of the road decision made with, at least, you might not agree with it, but at least a lot of times things went against what I wanted, and that's fine, but at least now I can explain this is their reasoning.
Yes.
It wasn't my idea, but at least that was their reasoning. If you want to tell them it's wrong, go tell them it's wrong.
Yeah.
It'll make me look better. But like, the thing is that you need someone to be able to own a feature and to live and breathe and understand what's the point of the feature, so that they know what the requirements are, what are the goals, and then they can measure the success of it, and based on that can then tweak it. But then you need someone to be able to communicate that, and I just don't know that person, like nobody. Nikita is that guy.
Yes,
and I think he's too stretched thin to be that guy.
My guess would be that every single person that works there has a super defined job. So Nikita fills in these supplementary roles a lot of times, right? Where he does, it's like he goes on these podcasts and people ask him questions, and it's like that, you know what I mean? He's like, frick, I didn't sign up to do this. Like, I don't know, or I'm working on it, or I know the team is working on it. So he gives an answer. And so having somebody, like separate that can explain those things, because it's true. You look at it and you're like, man, what from Battlesay Games perspective, like what was Scav Karma supposed to do? Like I was going to actually bring this up and talk about this, and we can dive into like the Tarkov realm of this in a little bit. But like, I had a realization and then a conversation with chat the other night where I was like, Scav Karma, except like the, you know, the numbers of like how quickly I gain it and lose it, that can be changed really easy. I was like, Scav Karma is exactly what I wanted it to be, and it worked too well. I like scavving less. There's nothing to do.
There's nothing to do. Like nobody fight. If I don't come across a PMC, then I'm actually have nothing to do. Because before I used to be able to pop a scav. I could like at least loot his stuff. But now it's like
I scav in a reserve, and I meet 63 other player scavs that no one wants to shoot each other. We can't get raiders to spawn. It's the only thing we can kill with neutral karma. All the PMCs are gone because they just looted up and left. And I can't kill
You
Luhar.
run towards 2 jackets. One guy goes on the left jacket, and you're like, well, I guess I get to do one jacket. I'm not gonna. I understand it's totally fair and everything, but fuck, I really wanted to see both jackets, but now I don't.
So we were talking about, it was like, man, like, and we were talking about how that's not a criticism of Battlesay Games, because this is exactly what I wanted 6 months ago when they were like Scav Karma. I was like, yeah, dude, like everyone's going to work together. But I was like, oh, I didn't realize. And so it's like interesting to see, like, they didn't exactly do that. They didn't really define the goal that they want, the hole that they want Scav Karma to fill. What do they want the game experience to be like post Scav Karma? So I don't have anything to hold this new Scav experience up against. I don't know if it was because they wanted to make it just less violent, if they wanted to make it so that we can make more money. I don't know if they wanted to make it so we gang up on PMCs more. Every single one of those things would have ripple effects that now need to be addressed. If you want us to be killing more PMCs, well, now you're revealing how much more you need to be incentivizing PMCs to stay, because I'll get into a reserve raid at 41 minutes and I can't find a PMC in the entire map. This is a 50-minute raid, and 9 minutes in, every PMC is gone. So it's like, oh,
and there's a million fucking player scavs all swarming
and it's
around.
Like, I don't want to get into the weeds there, but it's like, I don't know what to hold this up to. All I know is that scav raids are boring now.
See, now in hindsight, though, what they did, here's the deal. If you, and again, I don't want to project too much, but if you agree, if you look at it from the perspective of, which again is a total hypothetical.
Yeah. Maybe
nobody really takes that much time to design any of these features, like really proper design them.
Yeah.
And maybe this feature was just a response to stop scav on scav violence.
Yeah.
Well, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
But that's just sad, because to me it actually is evidence of like that next level of design and thoughtfulness. The stuff that I do in all my videos when I'm talking about like, hey, here's where the quests fall short, or like these things.
Yeah.
And here's how they can be improved, just going a little bit further. You realize that like it's significant, but it's also extremely shallow.
Yeah.
And it to me, it's a little bit maybe more evidence that like there isn't a proper design being done. So like, let me maybe we talk about Scav Karma a little bit, because I think we didn't talk about this yet, and I think there's some interesting stuff to talk about. But for me, the starting point is, what do you want?
Yes.
What's the goal?
What is the goal?
I don't know what Battle State wants. All I can say is what I think I would want if I was them. And what I would want is I want player scavs to cooperate amongst each other much more. Now, what does that mean? Cooperate means help each other, defend each other, trade items, hunt PMCs, help each other out, whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you want to be able to trade, help, defend, whatever. Okay, cool. Now you actually have some criteria to say, all right, well then what features are going to promote those things?
Each of those things spawn out like, more things.
How are we going to cooperate? Oh, well, all we can do is mumble and fucking wiggle. Okay, well, that's obviously a shortcoming. VoIP will help with that a lot. Cool. We want to be able to like, trade items. I mean, it happens naturally. We're like, I'll look for the one item that is the most quest item that I have that I don't need, like a gas analyzer or a hose. I'm like, drop it for them, and half the time they just shake their head no, and then they throw me like a fucking AI2 half used or something, and then half the time they're like, oh shit, this is what I've been looking for a month, and they grab it, and it's like, and then they drop me a fucking like key card to labs. It's like, oh shit, sick, like. But the thing is that like that's not thanks to the karma system. That's the community.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything to incentivize that.
Yes.
Now, if I wanted that to happen, there's a couple different ways you could go about it. But I mean, this is what you would do if I was at the whiteboard and we were having a discussion about designing this feature. First thing that comes to mind, I put a bullet point saying some sort of trade dialogue where you walk up to somebody and when you hit the Y button, it opens up a little window, and there's two things with a check mark and an X window, and you put something there, you hit the green check, someone else can put something there, they hit the green check, it trades. Or like that's like Diablo 2, the old trade method in Diablo 2, or whatever. Okay, that's cool. Now we can actually like have actual trades, and then we could tie all sorts of things into it. Maybe without any sort of UI, how could we track whether or not you gave something to somebody and help them out? Oh, well, maybe if you like drop it, the item has like an ID associated with it, so that if another scav picks it up within a certain amount of time, like you would get 0.01 scav karma or whatever. So it's like, but then of course, then from there, it's like, okay, use case. You don't want to be able to drop items back and forth and just fucking play hacky sack. And so, okay, we need to make it so that you can't cheese it. Okay, cool. So you go through all these things and you're like, what's a use case? What's a way around it? What's some of the goods? What's some of the bads? What are some of the problems? None of that ever happened.
Yeah, that seems like it's like that seems so tedious, but that's why it's so necessary, because exactly right. Like
it's not tedious. It's fascinating. It's fucking so much fun.
Well, to a designer, of course, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, and it feels like it. Once again, I don't want this to just be like us pooping on BSG, but that's exactly. It feels like it was like Scav Karma. We want the Scav players to interact more, cooperate more, and work together more. Okay, how do we de-incentivize them from shooting each other in the face? All right, ship it. And there was never that second question. Well, how do they interact? Is that a smooth and beneficial process? And is there an incentive to interact with each other? Like none of the additional questions were answered. And then because it's easy to see exactly like the thing that you just laid out, it's easy to see how deep that rabbit hole goes. And we're experiencing that with all the stuff going on where it's like we have nothing to do and we can't really trade with each other and nobody wants to kill anything. And it's like, we're like, what are we supposed to be doing? Because
and then sometimes you think you're doing the right thing and you get punished.
Yes, because the question was never asked, or at least it feels like it was never asked. It's like, okay, this is the system for de-incentivizing people from being violent to each other. Well, what is that? It feels like the question wasn't asked. Well, okay, what is the experience like? What we're left with? What is that experience like?
What do you do other than shoot people?
What we want them to do? or no, are we providing ways to do that? Exactly, trading. Whether it was a trade menu or like you were saying, some sort of ID, how are they incentivizing us to do that? Helping each other. Yes, of course, VoIP is going to help that, but is there a way to, like we talked about before, little handshakes. I go up to you, you hit Y, you hit Y to me. It says in the bottom right corner, you are now partied with blank. Like stuff like that. Like these aren't inherently complicated questions. And the example that we talked about several times towards the beginning of the wipe was like, if you shot me and I killed you, I lost karma. That's like the lowest question. Like, oh, we've de-incentivized them because when you kill somebody, you'll lose karma. I just can't get past that nobody in the conference room was like, well, what if someone shoots you first?
Well, no,
you know what I mean?
Here's the thing. I bet you they did, and I bet you someone said, well, yeah, but the next logical step is, well, what happens if two people get in there and they just want to farm it?
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot you. You're going to kill me. You're going to get scav karma +1. People are going to cheese that. So let's not reward.
Yeah.
We don't ever want to reward fucking anybody because that might be cheesed. So what you have is a system where someone like me who actually like really dove into the scav thing, like I'm always wiggling, I'm trying to, whatever. There are a couple times where I'll actually shoot somebody, but I think it's because I just saw a murder.
Yeah.
And I think that one's bad or one's good, but I'm trying to like gauge how the AI reacts to the survivor. That's how I need to figure out like this meta thing, which is stupid and it's not the way it should be, but it's the way it is. And then a lot of times they pretend like, yeah, that was the point all along. You're supposed to read the reaction of the other guys to know like it's some sort of fucking jury or I have no idea. But the thing is that so I've spent so much time. I've given so many fucking items to player scavs. I've walked around. I've wiggled so many scenarios where I've done what I think is like the pinnacle of scavdom, which is like there will be a bunch of raiders on reserve and a PMC, and I'll kill a PMC. I'll gun down 4 raiders and I'll heal. And then off in the distance, I'll see another player scav pop up and aim at me. And then I'll wiggle being like, we can share this loot that I just earned.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I'm saying, please don't shoot me. I'm trusting you, but everything, like, you're not going to get punished because it's only us two that have survived here.
Yeah.
So you could kill me and you get everything. But I'm going to not do the shitty thing and wiggle, even though a lot of times you'd think like, kill. Don't kill. Like that's hard when you see like the fucking woman hostage and you don't want to shoot the woman hostage, but you want to shoot the guy. Like, perfectly navigate the don't shoot the scav and shoot all the threats and do the right thing. And then I end up dying or bleeding out or whatever. And then I have 0.8 scav karma, even though I've spent the half of the wipe playing scav and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then all it takes is for somebody who's like, I don't scav at all. I've just taken the car exfil a few times on each map, and my scav karma is 10 times yours.
Yeah.
It just proves that like you don't fucking like either you don't care or you didn't think about what you actually want. Because I don't think at any point they were like, we need people to take the car extracts more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, they're like, give me a fucking break. Maybe the exfils with the players.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that being like a nice chunk of a reward. But the fact that like 1 out of every 10 raids, I get a chance to kill a rogue scav, and I get 0.01.
Yep.
And then the next raid, I think it's a bad scav, and I kill him, and now I get minus 0.05, and it's like, I have to make the right decision 6 times for every 1 time I make a mistake to break even. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So...
Yep. No, I mean, I get it. And I just think I agree with what you're saying. It's like, it doesn't feel like there was like additional questions past the initial feature. And I feel like that's where we're at with scav karma. And it's just scary. And I think you said this earlier where you were like a potential fear from their end is if they communicate something that they're beholden to it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I can understand if that's a fear on their end, right? Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to say you're going to do something and not do it. But I think we have to remember, okay, what I would love to communicate to them is that like something that's just as bad, if not worse, is happening, which is that everybody fills in the blank, and then they go around to the perspective, or their respective like Twitch streams and Discords and Reddits and spread that false information. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you experience this all the time. So do I. You know how many people like just make these like crazy ballsy assumptions, but they speak them into existence like they're fact. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, well, Battlestate.
Oh, you mean like literally everybody in Twitch?
Battlestate Games nerfed this because they did this and they did it for this. And I'm like, what? Like, where do you have information that they specifically took this out of, the loot pool or whatever for that exact reason? Well, it's like, well, why else would they do it? Oh, okay. So
you can't think of any other
you just undermined
reason.
Your whole thing. You came in here and you stated something to be a fact. You didn't just state it. You actually tried to help somebody else by stating something as fact. And then as soon as I ask you about it, he's like, well, I can't think of another reason. Like, that's not enough of a reason to say something is a fact because you can't think of another reason. So we're not even here to talk about that. But what I'm saying is that what I would love to communicate with them is like that's happening. Like they don't want to say something and then be beholden to it, but everybody fills in the blank. Everybody speaks random bullcrap as fact. It confuses the player base. It confuses freaking everybody. You know what I mean? And that's worse. And then to be honest with you, a freaking worse thing has happened, which I feel this like bearing down on Nikita's soul. Like that man cannot open his mouth without it being scripture. You know what I mean? Like everybody freaking.
Well, and that's why he doesn't want to say anything fucking anymore.
It's a cyclical thing, man. It just because he's like, oh well, we don't want to give a date, and then we're not able to do it. So we'll say Streets got pushed. It'll be early 2022. Oh man, well, January 1st, 2022, people are going to start freaking out and you're going to start hearing about it every single day. Whereas what I want to show them, I want to paint them a picture of what you said earlier, where we got a guy that does a monthly show that talks about here are the top 10 things we're working on and where they're at. And here are the top 10 bugs we're working on and where they're at. Well, now every month we all get to realign our expectations. So
we all have one place to look.
Exactly.
We can all go to this tweet or this thread.
And so instead of in June, Nikita saying, oh, we're going to push Streets early 2022, and then not hearing about Streets again until March, where he says, we're not going to be able to hit that deadline, we move it. The weight of that expectation being missed is so much heavier than the weight of like 1 month later. They're like, hey, like we talked about last week, how these are the things that were tripping us up with this part of Streets. Well, those are bigger than we thought. So we might have to like, oh my God. And that's the story I want to paint them because I see it. I see the cyclical routine they're in where exactly you're right. Nikita says something. We all take it like it is scripture. We all regurgitate it over and over. We make YouTube videos about it. People ask, well, I haven't played the game in a while. What's up with Streets? And we regurgitate. And this happens for months and months and months. And then Nikita says, hey, we can't hit this. The community outrages and all that. So
you fucking lying sack of shit.
So he very much so responds exactly like I would be like, well, I want to say even less now. But it's just like, man, I want to paint you a picture. It's like, man, if you said more, and if you, not even necessarily more as in like, give us more information, give us a date, but give us information regularly. Give us a monthly show, give us a bi-weekly, like that's the solve for that, because you're not letting down
as long as it's not Nikita or a developer.
You're not letting 8 months worth of expectations down. You're just adding to a conversation. That's so different. Yeah. That's so different. And of course you're still going to have people that troll. And of course you're still going to have people like, I'm not saying this is the magic pill that fixes everything, but once again, you're buying back an incredible amount of empathy and ownership. Nobody in the community feels like we don't feel like we own the game right now. You know what I mean? We're just like passengers in this thing and we're confused and nobody knows. Like we got old bugs returning. We got old bugs that are still here. We got new bugs. We got Scav Karma. We're confused about what it means.
We bought a bus ticket. We bought a bus ticket for a sweet vacation. And every now and then it seems like we're stuck in like the fucking back alley where there's just like homeless dudes masturbating and there's drug addicts selling shit and there's just like we're like, you know, and every now and then when you're like vacationing in Jamaica, you find yourself like driving through the sketchy part before you get out to like the beach or whatever. But it's like at some point I'm starting to wonder, is this what I signed up for? Or is this just a detour because there's some road construction or, you know, like, dude, fuck me. And I either want to get off the bus, you know, or call an Uber, you know, and get taken elsewhere.
The concerning thing that's happening is the amount of people that are traditionally and for years have been the people that go, no, I'm sure it's just construction. They're starting to pull out their phones and call Ubers. That's what it's like. It's like, oh man, you know what I mean? It's like the one confident, you know what I mean? Like when the captain of the ship starts to panic, you know, it's over. He's the one that's supposed, and that's what's happening. The community's starting to see these people that are really chill, really mild mannered, really positive about the game go, I'm going to play something else for a while. And then it just adds gasoline to the fire that is the, you know, the Tarkov internet community. And it's not going to end well. I am worried. I don't know anything. I don't want to sound like to people that I know exactly what I'm talking about. This doesn't feel like a game design issue. This doesn't feel like this is a people issue. I understand people fairly well. That is something I would stake my claim on that JesseKazam is good at. Not game design, not even good at playing video games, to be honest with you. But I know people and I feel like I communicate exactly what I'm thinking well. And because I know those things, that's where I have the audacity to be like, I truly believe that if they communicated with their community better and in a few different ways that I feel like I know, this would be a positive for them. This isn't me coming out of my wheelhouse and saying you need to develop a game differently. You need to develop features in a different order. You need to anti-cheat netcode. No, I don't know that stuff, and I will always default to the people that do. But this isn't that. This is people. This is people feeling like they're heard. This is people having empathy. This is people feeling ownership, feeling excited. This is the stuff I understand, emotion. And I'm just worried that by the time they, like, you know what I mean? I'm worried that it's an empty auditorium when they're like, guys, point 13, streets. And everybody's like, dude, because you already see it. You already see it where it's like, oh, we're doing this map. And everyone's like, oh, I'm super excited to see what bugs it is. I'm super excited. Like, you're souring the taste of this game in people's mouth. And I'm just scared. And I'm like, dude,
you're seeing like this is a perspective that you can only get with enough time and enough like dipping your feet into the water before, you know, you start to really, because remember not too long ago you were like, nah, dude, I'm excited and like I am
for sure.
Look, and I'm like, what were you saying? You are optimistic. Like I'm cautiously optimistic, and it's like I wish that I could have said the same at the time and that I could now, because like it's less optimistic and more like this. I know this has the potential. I just don't. Every piece of evidence makes me makes me less optimistic.
Yep.
But again, that's on them. Yeah. I think, you know what I mean? Like, and they kind of need to own that and to realize it. I mean, honestly, the hard part though is that like at the end of this little mini saga that we're in right now, the end result might be a brighter future for Tarkov where we all have much more communication, everything, or it might be they don't want to fucking talk to me anymore. And, you know, or insert whatever other content creators here. And, you know, then a new group of people who come in that are now their favorites, and then insert all the conspiracy theories, you know, like maybe that's what we are. Maybe we're the second batch, and all the Cottons and whoever that don't, you know, that aren't really super active in the community, they were the first ones or whatever.
I mean, I'm scared of that exact thing. I was watching a streamer. I don't want to name who because I don't want people going in the chat, but like, one of my absolute favorite to watch original OG Tarkov streamers that I have not seen play Tarkov in a long time. And somebody asked him, and somebody was like, yo, would you ever think about checking out Tarkov? And immediately he was like, oh man, I don't know. That's just not what it used to be, man. The community's just wild right now. Just like that was it. It wasn't like, oh yeah, you know, they slowed down the combat and it's not really a game that I enjoy anymore. It wasn't that. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know what they're doing and it's confusing me and the community seems toxic and and I was like, oh crap. I don't want to end up there. Like I love this game, but I get it. I wasn't even mad at that dude. I was like, oh, I freaking get it. You know, it's so.
Dude, it's like when you're in college and one of your friends who's a year younger than you is still in high school, and they're like, "Did you hear about the drama with?" And you're like, "I've fucking moved on from that, dude. Are you kidding me?" Yep. Like what I'm avoiding. I don't want it to be like, no, man, I've left and I'm now fucking a Destiny 7 streamer, and you know all those people still stuck in the trenches, and and because half of them are then arguing like the game's going the wrong direction. No, the game's going the right direction. No, everything's fine, dude. No, the problem is the player base. No, and it's like the same shit that happens over and over and over and over and over and over again, all over again. I mean, I guess what I need to say is like to everybody that questioned me over the last year, like I fucking told you so. I'm just kidding.
I guess I need to end this on a
there's a universe where the last year and a half I was complaining it was all wrong until just now. And now I'm right by accident. There's a universe.
But it ain't this damn universe. I don't know, man. So I just don't know. I just don't know how to, once again, my biggest fear is coming across like that Twitch chatter. You know what I mean? Which is why I am very, very careful to not speak about things unless it's stuff I know about, which is why I felt more comfortable being a little bit more aggressive on these past few podcasts, because at the end of the day, I feel this is an inherently human problem, not a game design problem. And I'll die on that hill. Like I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they're doing everything right from a game design perspective, but I just have no leg to stand on there. And I just see a future where they buy back so much love and empathy and support from the community. So it's like, but I just don't know what to do. You know what I mean? I don't have contact. I'm not in contact with anybody from BSG. So that's why I'm excited. That's why I'm potentially excited about like a thing. If it's like a thing we could do, a Discord, a Reddit, a website, a something, like, because I want so badly to talk to Nikita for 30 minutes and just ask him some questions and give my very unprofessional advice. I'd love to talk to, but I just don't know. I don't know what to do. It's like, I feel like I've got part of the answer. I don't know who to tell it to. I don't think they'd want to talk to me. And the very, very last thing I want is to come across like another person that thinks they has the answer, but they don't. So I just in this weird spot where I'm like, oh, I don't know.
And that's why I really, as much as we wanted to get Nikita on the podcast, like I really want to get him on the podcast too. But there's a world in which we get him on the podcast and it goes all wrong.
Yeah.
Because we end up with, are you aware of the bug? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you want to do about that? You know, what are your thoughts on the design of this feature? Tell us about the things that you want. You know, we're hoping for A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about like all these different use cases, and you know, this is kind of an interesting. Yeah. We'll sort it out. It's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, dude. I mean, 100%. It goes back to, you know, one of our most viewed episodes is the whole, like, Tarkov needs vision. Like, it goes back to that exact same thing. Like, what we want and what we need is somewhere in between. And I don't know if there's a word for this. I don't know how to phrase this, but I know exactly what phenomenon you're describing, where the, like, middle portion of this conversation gets cut out. We start from, do you know about this bug? You know, and because their answer is so short, yes, we skip completely over a part of a conversation where they talk about like what they wanted that feature to look like, why they wanted that feature to look that way, how it fits into the broader scheme of the lore of Tarkov. And because their answer is so short, we leapfrog that and we jump to what if when a scav did this, and we go right to like this crazy theory crafting, and then Nikita's eyes roll into the back of his head, and all these ideas come out, and then everybody bounces off each other. Yeah, and sometimes those are amazing ideas, sometimes they're dumb ideas, but we skip we skip right over all the meaningful conversation to like an overwhelming amount of like, yeah, well, of course that would be cool, but we've got all these other things we're working on. And it's like, it's because there's no like, give us something from your end. Tell us what you want the game to look and feel like. Tell us what you want this feature to accomplish. Tell us because we want to hear it. We're starved for it. And every time you say a little bit about it, like when he was talking about Streets, oh my God, those videos were getting hundreds of thousands of views. We're starved for what you want this game to be. And then it helps inform the ideas and the theory crafting that we do, because now we've got boundaries, right? That's almost like the cardinal problem of Escape from Tarkov theory crafting, is because nobody knows the game Nikita wants to make. Our theory crafting is from all different dimensions, and some of those things would require an additional year's worth of work to implement. You know what I mean? Like, you know how like the most creative people give themselves boundaries. Like, I have to write a song with only 2 chords, and like restriction. It's like, restrict us, Nikita. Like, tell us exactly what you want this game to be. It helps inform us. It helps us hold the game up against something, and it helps us give better ideas, because they're going to be more nuanced. Like,
because then all the feedback is, it's like specific. Directed.
Yes, directed.
So like, it's not a bunch of people all saying, well, I'm not going to state what my end goal is, but here's my 7 things about how to get to the end goal I'm not stating.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, those 7 things don't line up with my end goal that I'm not stating in my head, but it's always just scav karma.
Yeah.
And it's never like, if Nikita said, I want these 4 things and this is the goal for scav karma, well, now we have a way of saying good, bad, theory craft, idea, whatever.
Yep.
And then, so, I mean, maybe that's a good place to start. Like, if we ever have him on the podcast, we basically say, let's not talk about anything specific about timelines or any specific mechanics or anything like that, but let's talk about experiences and and more nebulous.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be creeping through a thing and see somebody and have there be are they a threat? Are they friendly? And have that moral dilemma and whatever. And then also, like, tell us, give us that.
Yeah.
Because then nobody can say that you're wrong.
Yeah. It's your game.
Or that's bad.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And that's the other thing too, is that, like, a lot of the criticism, or even when it's constructive, I have to kind of assume that these are the things they want, which is why I think my whole Tarkov is not meant to be fun video was like a big eye opener for me and a lot of other people, which is like, oh, well, now all these other things that were bad design or were broken, maybe they're not, and maybe they actually make sense in that context.
Yes.
And from that context, it's reasonable. Okay, well, then now let's start looking at other things through that context. Oh, well, now there's reasonable things around, like, well, that doesn't fit into that context. It's just bad user experience.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help make, like, you want to feel like you're a helpless, alone, whatever, when there's a spinner, and you click a button and it doesn't work. Like, that's not.
Because that's powerful. Like, we had a little microcosm of that the other day. Somebody came into chat and somebody was like, do you guys ever get the feeling that, like, the maps were not designed with video games in mind? Like they don't feel like shooter maps. And I was like, you're right. I was like, they're not supposed to. I was like, did you know that when they design these maps, almost every single map in the game is designed after a very specific building and almost models it 1-to-1 scale. And the original vision behind this was just to make you feel scared and alone and walking through these real life things. And the guy went, oh, that's awesome. Completely flipped the opinion of what it was only through vision and context, right? Not through changing anything, not through any theory crafting. It was just, oh, that's dope.
And you know why? It's the here's what happens. You see an arrow hits the wall over there, and then we say, well, if the bullseye's over there, that was a really bad shot.
Yep.
And Nikita says, the bullseye was right there, and it fucking lights up, and it's a perfect shot.
Yeah.
But we never get that.
Exactly.
We all are just like, where's the bullseye?
Exactly.
And the fucking arrow hits, and we're like, and half the people say that is absolutely where they were aiming. Trust me.
Yeah.
Those are the true fucking believers that no matter what, and that's what we get classified as, the true believers all the time. even though we are just as critical, if not more critical, but constructive of
100%.
BSG. What I want to know is, I want them to shoot the arrow blindfolded and say, where were you aiming that arrow?
Yeah.
You tell me before you take off your fucking blindfold.
Yeah.
You tell me where you were aiming it. Because if you say, I was aiming for this point right there, then I can say, great shot.
Nice.
I might want you to, I might have put it somewhere else.
But at least I know you shot where you were aiming.
Yeah,
That's all I want to know. Yeah.
But if we're debating, and that's honestly like that, I mean, that just goes back to a lot of the shit that goes on just in like IRL.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When it comes to like, people are just debating past each other because they have different terms, and they're using different words and they have different goals,
different
where it's like, which is why, like, we're not getting into politics, but why when you hear like a Republican and on the right and on the left and they all fucking yell at each other, and it's always like, it's never, let's find some common ground where we can agree on certain basic like axioms, and then from there we can say, okay, cool, okay, let's agree that the first definition of health is not dying.
Yeah.
If you can go then from it's there, like, okay, cool, is a bullet to the aorta better or worse for your health? Worse. We have agreement. Now let's work backwards.
Yep.
And I always try to do that, but that always comes off as being pedantic or overly picky, when it's like, no, I'm just trying to start at a fucking obvious place where two people on opposing sides can be like, yeah, we obvious, and then you take one step, and then eventually, if you do that and you're honest, eventually you end up with but then what about this? And then one person goes, okay, I think I see your point now.
Yeah,
because it becomes fucking clear.
You find a much truer like divergence point. Everybody thinks, it's like a much more accurate place where the opinions shift. And because there's so much agreement behind that disagreement, there's built-in empathy. Because now I can see, I now know that you agree that health is not dying and a bullet to the aorta is bad and lung cancer is bad and this, and like, now at least I know we agree on all these things, so I can kind of see where you're coming from with this being the divergence point 100%. And so maybe go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, in these discussions, in a metaphor like this, it always starts off with, government should ban cigarettes. No, you can't take away my right to freedom. And it's like, they're like adjacent, but like they're starting off so many different places where it's like, you need to start back at, essentially, you need to let us agree where the target is.
Yes.
Even if it's a hypothetical, let's just say, which I like to do all the time, let's just say that the target's there. And then you look and you see that the arrow is either in it or it's not. Well, then, once you have a hypothetical or you have some common ground, you can have agreement. If you're using one person's using fucking Fahrenheit thermometer and the other person is using a fucking ruler, and you're sitting there debating, the value of something, you're wasting your fucking time.
Yep. And maybe, because that's a much more eloquent way of saying exactly what I was like trying so hard to get out all those months ago, where I was like,
that was eloquent.
Tarkov, well, more obviously.
I think I talked about a masturbating homeless man. I don't think anything I've said today is elegant.
That's very true. Like that's what I was trying to communicate when I was back then. When I was like, Tarkov needs vision. It's exactly this. We need to all, community and developers, realize where the target is. And so maybe that's a great place to start. If we get Nikita on and we are not going to ask about timelines for features. We are not going to throw out ideas like, yo, do you think you can implement this or fix this bug, please? It's like, what we want is for you, the guy that's been thinking about this game since, 5 years before you even founded BSG, to just help us figure out where the target is. And paint a picture of the vision of what's supposed to be, what you want this experience to be like. And then maybe we can hone in on a few specific things. And it's like, all right, with Scav Karma, what do you want that to be? What do you want the experience to be? And just help both sides find some common ground.
And the sad part is that might be the hardest thing. If I'm writing a song and I have it very clearly in my mind, what I want the whole thing to be.
Yeah.
And if someone's like, explain it to me. my only response is just fucking wait until it's done.
Yeah.
Because I can't. It's so many intangible emotions and feelings and thoughts and visions that maybe that's what Nikita is struggling with and has been for so long, because he's like,
here's the thing,
he's never actually like,
tell me where I'm wrong here. Tell me where I'm wrong here. Do you not forfeit a piece of that if you sold 1,000 tickets to your friends and family for them to come hear the idea as it stands today? You forfeit the ability to say, just wait. You sold us all tickets because that was the only way you were going to afford the guitar. So like, you know what? I don't know. Like, I just feel like I get that from a certain perspective, but the game's been in development for 4 years. Everybody that plays it every single day is confused. I don't feel like it's so much to ask to be like, hey, at least try. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's something that I don't. There's the distinction between. He's not obligated.
No.
And he's not. But
he doesn't owe us anything.
What's the distinction between like? He doesn't owe us, and we didn't pay to like have him answer the thing or whatever.
Pay
but
for, like,
at the same,
like, to
but
BSG.
it's one of those. But it's one of those things that like. I feel. It's like your duty, your responsibility, even though like, you know. If I lent somebody money and then I didn't pay him back, or something like that, you know, or. Let's say I went to a fucking friend's birthday party and I was like, hey, Joe, I'm not gonna be able to pick up a gift. Can you pick up an extra gift and I'll get you back for it? That's not something that he will ever take me to small claims court over. Like, he actually definitely has but like, I'll feel shitty my whole life if I don't pay him back for that thing. It's just the right thing to do. I feel like it's the right thing at this point for like, if Nikita to do his best to communicate that. But honestly, like, I understand how hard, like, I'm saying that and I'm saying like, yeah, dude, just communicate it. Just come up with an idea that everybody can agree with and understand. And then now I say that out loud and I'm like, now I realize maybe why he doesn't fucking bother. Because because even if he has that vision, he has to perfectly boil it down into something to communicate. Then he has to communicate it, and then people have to then digest it exactly how he wanted, and then he has to live to that, which may or may not be the right interpretation.
Yeah,
so
I mean, yes and no,
hard,
though.
Man.
Yes and no. I just, you can't, like, I don't know. Once again, I definitely agree he doesn't owe us anything. There's two reactions I have to what you just said. One is One is what I want to communicate to him is like, yeah, maybe it is hard, but what I'm telling you is that like this will be better for the community. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we were saying earlier. It's like, I know humans. I can tell what people are feeling, and I'm telling you that if you try, it's going to be better for your community, and then probably for your company and probably for your game. The other thing to that is like, as much as I totally get that, like, he's leading a company, right? Like, he has to have at least a decent enough semblance to be able to answer our questions, right? Because he goes to work every day and is responsible for hundreds of people employment. They're making a game. You know what I mean? They're not like at the starting point in the ethereal, like, man, what should this be? They're assuming that he's able to
articulate and communicate those things to the people, and the people are able to build it exactly how he wants it. Which is an assumption that I don't know I'm willing to say is actually happening.
But maybe I just feel like we have to hold him to the standard of like,
we have to assume that.
We have to assume that, like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't walk into a store and assume that like they're bankrupt and going under and you need to buy everything you can to support the local business. It's like, I assume that you know what you're doing with this bakery, and I'm going to come in and consume some of it. I don't know. That's a terrible analogy. I just don't think, I mean, I think given some of the examples we've gotten over the past few years is why you're saying, like, I don't know if we can assume that but I don't know. I don't know.
See, the thing is, and this is actually relevant. One of the few times I'll comment on chat, but so what somebody just said is, what has been the response every time Nikita fully followed his vision? Look at when they've removed thick cases or no container items, weight system, healing animations. It's always hate. That's because, again, it goes back to what I was saying with don't talk about specific mechanics. Like, those are the things that what ends up happening is someone says, we're going to remove thick cases and we're going to up the weight system. And everybody goes, why? This fucking sucks. Because we don't know why. Or half the people say, they're just trying to make it slow down for Chads. And then the other half the people are saying, they're trying to ruin the game for casuals. And then the other half the people say, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's all willy-nilly because we don't know why. The only thing we ever get is it's Tarkov, eat shit. And it's like... Exactly.
I completely agree. It's not necessarily saying that... 3 halves, it's all right. It's not necessarily saying that nobody would hate the feature. Like, I totally get what he was saying. It's not saying that they wouldn't get, but like the thick items case thing is a great example, and the weight system, really. The thick items case, that was a nuclear bomb that went off that day because everybody just woke up and it happened. You know what I mean? The weight system, there was no, as far as I can remember, there was no podcast where they were like, hey, we're going to really make the weight system mean something. And this is how we're going to do it. And this is why we're going to do it. We want these things to be accomplished with those things. If they did that, it would have been a completely different response. There would have 100% been people that absolutely hated the weight system even after them doing it. It wouldn't make everybody love it, but it would have been a completely different response to it.
Well, so devil's advocate, I don't remember all of the things because they get beaten to death so much that I put them out of my brain. It's entirely possible that you rewind 3 years ago and every other week there was a podcast where the answer to the question of like, how are you going to solve this problem that everybody's complaining about is don't worry, in the future, 3 years from now, we're going to implement the weight system.
Yeah.
And then they talk about it so much that nobody wants to hear about it anymore. And then nobody talks about it. And then a year later, there's a million new players and they implement the thing that they were talking about that was supposed to fix a bunch of issues everybody's forgotten about because we've all moved on to cheaters and RMT and blah, blah, blah. So I can't say that they never explained it.
But I can say that
it's just that they never said, like, it was never the timeliness of it about here's what we're doing and here's why.
But that's what I'm saying. I can say that that's enough for me to have that argument. Like, if you're saying play devil's advocate, what if they'd said that all the time? I can say it's irrelevant if it's a year ago. You know what I mean? It's listen, this is what we're doing tomorrow. You know what I mean? This is what we're doing next patch. And here's why. Here is the gameplay elements we want this to support. Here is what we're trying to move away from. And that's what's crazy is that, like, sometimes I don't understand why Nikita's so hesitant, because he's very open. Anytime anybody asks him about like metas, oh no, we don't want metas. We want to do meta. Oh yeah, we want to slow people down. But they never put the 2 and 2 together and say, hey, this update, we're implementing this feature. We want this feature to accomplish this goal. You know what I mean? Give us feedback on, you know what I mean, how it's going, but this is what we want. The weight system, you would have absolutely still had people on Twitter saying this is the worst thing to ever happen to Tarkov, yada, yada, yada. But I believe that number would have been reduced dramatically. The feedback would have been much more, overall, I believe that the feedback would have been much more focused and been like, hey, you're definitely accomplishing what you're wanting to do. You're maybe a little too much. You know what I mean? And they probably would have dialed it back a little bit just like they did, but it wouldn't have been a volcano of just hatred and disgust. And more importantly, confusion. You're exactly right. All those 3 different groups of people were then attributing this change to something different and contradictory things. Like you were saying, a group of people were saying they were trying to hurt the casuals, a group of people saying they were trying to hurt the Chads, and a group of people were saying they actually have never played this game before and they don't know what they're doing. And it's like that right there, you would have 100% fixed. You still would have had people hate it. You still would have had people frustrated by it, but you wouldn't have had people saying, like, it would have said exactly what they said. And in a timely manner. So it's like, and I think that goes a long way. And that's what I want. I want to grab Nikita's collar, and that's what I want to tell him. It's like, I'm not telling you're not going to avoid hate. You're not going to avoid confrontation. You're not going to avoid a toxic community, but you're going to empower the majority of your players. I believe the vast majority of your players to understand, to not be confused, and then decide if they want to buy into something or not. I think confusion is the enemy here, and everybody's confused.
Yeah, confusion and ambiguity, and yeah, I mean, because just think about, like, even if there's like 50 of the top streamers all get into like the summit with Nikita, and it's like,
yeah,
this is what the goal of this thing is. It's like, great. Well, now you've just turned 50 people into 500,000 because of all of everybody's reach, and that's way more powerful than like a tweet, in many cases. But instead, you just have a bunch of those people, the streamers and their communities, are otherwise just having arguments past each other, because they can't agree which way is up, and you can't, like I said, you can't have an argument or a discussion with any meaningful sort of end result if you mean different things with the same words. It just ends up being a giant circle jerk, and
100%.
Yeah, it's not fruitful, and you just end up with resentment, basically.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, it just all comes down to that confusion and ambiguity, man. And I see it. You see it in every facet. You see it in how they deal with cheaters. You see it in people accusing them of things, how they deal with business practices, with development, how features are developed, how their QA is, how bugs are reported, how bugs are fixed. It's all ambiguous. So everybody assumes, everybody fills in the blank. And that is just de facto, factually, objectively bad for them right now. Everybody filling in the blanks.
Maybe that explains why I mean, rewind 2 years ago, I used to say nothing but good things about the Tarkov community when it was, part of it is because it was smaller, but the other part of it was because I also felt like we maybe knew a little bit more.
100%. I believe.
But right now, like, the community went from being one of the fucking coolest online to now everybody's talking about how toxic and shitty the community is. And it's because all we do all day long is I have to sit here and defend against like conspiracy theories that Nikita's just scamming us out of money and he doesn't care, and that these other people are just making money from cheaters, and it's like all these bullshit where it's like everybody's just making stuff up because nobody knows what the fuck is going on and there's no explanation, and we're fighting, like, we're fucking eating ourselves alive.
Yeah,
because we don't know.
It's absolutely. It feels like BSG in the community back in like 2017, 2018, right? It was a small community. BSG was a small team. And because of that, I felt like there was a lot of communication and a lot of understanding, because Tarkov was so niche. You had to know at least what it was trying to be in order to get into it and buy it, right? Like, so few people were streaming it. So few people were playing it. What happened was BSG and the community went opposite ways. Once you start getting Shroud, Summit, the Drops event, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, like, you just got to realize that's the thing. When you get Shroud playing a game, when you get Summit playing a game.
Shroud was playing before me, but
Yeah, but then he didn't for a really long time. You know what I mean? Like, when you get Shroud, when you get Summit.
He was playing when he had 150 viewers.
Exactly.
I was when it was under NDA. Streamer.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and then now when you get that happening, like, you have to understand that that's just the way the world works. When Summit starts playing a game, there's going to be a few hundred people that just buy it. What is this game? It's just Summit guns purchase. So the community got larger and more confused about this complicated, convoluted, hardcore, frustrating game. And BSG was like, oh, we're not just like a few people like around a table anymore. Like, this crowd is getting, and I feel like they just went in and then the community continued to grow and it continued to get more confusing. And then they just kind of backed up a little bit more. And I definitely agree with you. I definitely feel like a few years ago, it was different. It felt different. So many less people would have considered this community toxic. I was in random discords where people were like, oh, I'm giving away a docs case, like, let's link up. It was just, I'm not saying nobody's happy or having fun or good, blah, 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 but I agree with what you're saying. And so I think that part of that is an increase in confusion and ambiguity about the game's features, about what it's supposed to be, about when it's coming out, about when this feature is coming out, about, what ammo I'm supposed to use. Is the Bitcoin farm worth it? It just keeps getting more and more confusing. And as more and more people play it, that's just not a good thing for them. I feel like they didn't respond to the growth. You know what I mean? You just have to be a different game company, right? You know what I mean? When you would be a different game company if you knew 250,000 people were going to play your game in beta, right? Like if you would prepare for that. And it's very understandable that they didn't know that. You know what I mean? Nikita has said that they used to think that if they ever got to 30,000 concurrent players, they would consider the game a success. You know what I mean? So, 7, 8, 9 times that is a lot bigger. But I feel like what we're seeing is that they never caught up to that. They never, as far as like community manager side of things, they never like caught up to like informing. I mean, I remember seeing weekly shows about like all the things that they were adding or changing to Fortnite when that started blowing up. I remember seeing weekly shows, The Division, when the first one came out, they did State of the Games every week, and I ate that up, dude. They were nerfing this skill, they were balancing this skill, they were doing this. And so many people were playing this game, and it spurred content, and it spurred, and so I just feel like they never adapted to the fact that hundreds of thousands of people aren't getting anything from them,
So maybe that'll be a starting point, because my assumption is that if I were to go to them and say, maybe we feel like maybe there's something missing with the communication, that might be like a really, we had no idea kind of thing,
Yeah.
or we've been very open, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
Yep. Well, I feel like we've adequately communicated our thoughts.
This is, it's funny. This is exactly how I feel at the end of fucking therapy session.
Oh, bro.
Where it's just like, speak your mind. You get people validating that you're not crazy, and and then you realize like, oh, there's problems with this person, and there's also problems with me that I got to work on, and such, and yada yada yada, and now I got to like get in my car and drive home, and
there's like it's like a whole story where like in the
my
middle,
heart's like racing.
In the middle, you're like, oh, we're doing it, we're fixing everything. You're on that high, and then you're like, yeah, all right, that was a good session. And it's like, damn, wait, real life. Like, I got to go launch Starcom right now. Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, I hope that people understand that, like, obviously we do this and talk about this stuff through the lens of like truly loving this game and wanting the best for it, and for it to be fun. And I hope, like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, bro, you should just send a key to this podcast. Like, we're never going to communicate what we wanted to communicate better. But then I'm like, I don't know about that. But I don't know if anybody at Battles Day watches the podcast or anything. But it's just like, I hope people know, man. It's hard. We've talked about this before, that it's really hard. It's hard to stay in the middle because people want you to pick a side. It's not hard for me to retain a healthy balance of optimism and criticism. It's not hard for me to do that. But what's hard is that people come into, our chats, our YouTube comments, and they want us. So they might hear a fragment, a segment, or a clip, and they call us the Tarkov deniers, and they think we hate it. Or they call us the Tarkov, truists, and we think everything they do is great. And I think that, to me, is the hardest thing. It's like, I always feel like I have to over preface and do all this stuff, because it's like, I know somebody's going to think I'm this or somebody's going to think I'm that. But I just hope people know that it's like, damn, we really just are excited about the game and want what's best for it, and are frustrated with how it's been. So I don't know.
The hard part is that there are people, unfortunately, so many of the people on the internet are like the commenter that I got 1 million fucking notifications from on our last YouTube video.
Oh, geez.
I don't know if you saw this at all, but there was a comment. I just love this because it's a perfect fucking example of like 0 to 60, like why does anybody engage on the internet kind of thing, where so this guy, his name's Branch Off Bush. He commented saying, the way Veritas acts about wanting to help the game is how I feel about Sea of Thieves, and I'm on the 3rd year of my CSC degree. Dead ass about ready to apply to Rare for QA because the game is starting to shit. And then this other guy named Mike, who's Mike?
Freaking Mike.
Responds with, I don't think he wants to help, meaning me.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to act like I had something to do with the change. Glad Jesse took over his spot. Because he was getting quite annoying. I'm not really sure.
What the hell?
There.
And is this guy responding to like everybody's comments?
Yeah, and I keep getting fucking... And I responded to the other guy saying something, and now I just get over and over and over and over again. This guy's... It's so fucking funny, dude. I have to read... You guys need to know that, like, this is the emptiness that fucking YouTube comments can go through. So I did this thing that said... because he said, I don't want to help, right? So I said, yeah, just ignore the hundreds of hours of content that I've made where it's literally been designs and proposals for features, fixes, improvements. I'm like, yeah, it's all an act. I'm just acting like I'm just trying to take credit for everything. So he says, can you name examples of features you influenced in the game? Which is already moving the goalpost, because it wasn't about, I never said that I influenced anything.
Yeah.
It was just that I was, you
said that he doesn't want to help. So now you're moving the goal.
But here we go. Now we're already like,
yep.
This is how arguments on the internet go, right?
Yeah.
It's always like just changing the fucking subject, and you know that they're just saying it with a big fat LOL at the end, like, I'm sure you. He says, I'm sure you proposed having your own music as an improvement, lol. And it's like, actually, no. A million people have all said you should put your music in the game. Get Nikita, and I say no. He's got it covered.
Nikita's music is
good
dope.
Enough. Yeah. So I literally said, nah, Nikita has the music covered. I said, but I've made proposals and designs, both publicly and privately, from everything from third-party REST APIs to zeroing, flea market restrictions and timers, quests, the found and raid system, VoIP, ballistics, AI, trader item availability and loot distribution, optics, full player loadouts, different menu UI and UX improvements, netcode bugs and issues and backend performance, issues with audio occlusion design and related bugs, health and damage systems. And then I said, you know what? I could go on, but I said, but something tells me that none of that is going to change your mind. And then he said, oh, you came up with the idea of VoIP. How innovative. You really are a god.
Dude. What?
You're a network developer too? Along with being a musician and a QA worker? Holy shit, you're a video game sound designer? What else are you, champ? Did you come up with the JesseKazam look, or did you copy him?
Like, dude, what a scumbag. What an actual... What an human feces
a beard
of a human being.
You mean a beard and a hair?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Come on, dude.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
He cries
and
himself
the worst part is that
every single night.
The thing is that, like,
sure.
and what hurts my soul is that there are people, like, he can walk into a group where there are people with actual real constructive criticism, right? Where, like, you know, I can be in a shitty mood and I can be an asshole and whatever, you know, but then he'll be like, yeah, ha ha ha, I totally agree with all you guys. Yeah, he fucking sucks. And it's like, and he doesn't even, he's in his own world because he doesn't realize how fucking detached.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many people are just fucking like that. Not just with me, but like with everything, with Battle State, with any content creator. These people exist and they vote and shit.
Yeah, right.
And they don't get vaccinated. And they, you know, like fuck, dude. This is the stuff we're fighting against. And this is why we have to remember that, like, this is why some people don't listen to feedback, because so much of what they hear is this. That, like, okay, Nikita, I get it. There are a lot of shitheads. You just got to figure out, like, a filter for the signal to noise. And we all have to do that. And that's probably the biggest thing I need to do as a content creator.
Yeah. But it's very valid to bring up that, like, that is I am positive that at least part of the fear of, like, communicating more with the community is just, like, inviting that. Right. You know what I mean? Like, inviting more of that. So I can understand that, because I hate those comments. You hate those comments. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's exactly the signal to noise filter. It's hard, man. It's hard. Like, I don't know.
You never know. Like, everybody needs to get an avatar that shows their face.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you type a comment, you need to have your webcam on, and as you hit enter, it takes a screenshot of your face. And if you're like, then at least I know that I don't have to take you seriously.
Yeah. I remember Pestily talking about that on stream once. Like, he was completely kidding, but he was like, we need systems to completely remove the anonymity from the internet. Like, every place, if you are allowed to type on that, you need to connect your phone number, your hometown, where you went to high school. All that needs to be connected. Like, we need to completely remove anonymity. Anytime you type any comment on the internet, it needs to be sent to your top contacts on it. Like, because it's 100%. That's where it all comes from. Like that. Like, 9 out of 10 of those guys don't act that way in real life. You know what I mean? And hate when people treat them that way. You know, it's this weird freaking bubble of anonymity.
It used to just be all the engagements that we have on the internet now that suck. That used to be relegated to just like when someone cut you off in traffic and you pull up to a red light. That 8-second interaction was like, yeah, fuck you, asshole. Yeah, I'm gonna fuck and then you drive away and it's over with.
Yeah.
That used to be the extent of these types of where like the worst part of you comes out and you forget you're a human being.
Yeah.
Now it's
a thread.
Sit in front of your computer and it's like, let's be a fucking animal.
Yep.
You know,
for hours. Like, yep.
Fuck.
It's so true though.
Maybe I should stream on Facebook.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. There's honestly, a little bit less anonymity.
I have actually heard that like it's way less toxic because it's like Steve Jones.
It's Facebook, yeah.
Is going to get like death threats on his private, like his mom's going to get a message being like, hey, you know your son was racist, right? Like, oh shit, you know? Wow.
Damn, I never thought about that. I need to just go lurk in a big Facebook stream and see what it's like. That's so interesting.
It's a bunch of people that are like, if it's anything like my Facebook feed now, it's going to be like someone's going to be playing like COD or whatever, and then someone's going to be like, hey, streamer, here's a picture of my baby on vacation. And then the next one's going to be someone named like Gloria Smith is going to say mashed potatoes recipe because she thinks it's Google. And then it's going to be how to make mashed potatoes. And then the next thing is going to be like, if it's anything like my Facebook wall, it's just going to be it's going to be a whole shit show for a completely different reason.
That would be so funny. Could you imagine streaming and then like seeing people like trying to post like a status or something? And I would just never recover from that. I would
my
never.
My grandmother's Facebook is buck wild, dude. You should see the shit that she comments on pictures and stuff. I mean, I love her to death, but holy shit, it's like the things that I think in my head that like I giggle at that I would never say out loud are the things she types on a comment.
Oh my God.
Like, wow, she looks like she's really lost a lot of weight. It's like, you're commenting on her picture.
Yeah.
You're talking about her. That's the thing you'd whisper to somebody else. Like, you don't get it.
Oh,
you just don't get it.
Bro.
Oh, she's way less frumpy with makeup on.
Oh,
like, Grandma, come on. Jesus.
That's incredible.
Oh, anyway.
That's incredible. Oh, well. Thank you for coming to our Escape from Tarkov therapy session. Group therapy will resume next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Don't get guys. We're not. Trust me, it's not going to go on forever like this. There will be a light at the end of this tunnel. I know people have already typed in the comments, and so it's already moot because they haven't made it this far into the video.
Correct.
But like, we're not gonna just be whine about Tarkov all day, every day, doom and gloom.
Yes.
That's not what we're going to be about.
Nope.
We're just in a little bit of a slump.
Yeah.
And we need to vent a little bit.
100%.
And I know there's a lot of fucking people. If you want to downvote and say like, you guys suck or whatever, sure. But maybe look at all the other people that are like, thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Preach. Speak your mind. That like the vast majority of people we're doing a service for because we are trying to speak for them and also speak for us.
Yeah.
So like, just Be cool.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine.
Everything's going to be fine. Trust in the work. Trust in the work. I mean, yeah, just go back like 4 or 5 episodes ago when all the pre-wipe events were happening, and I was like pumped. I was like, this is going to be the best. I was like, there's all this stuff. Like, it won't always be like this. 100%.
Unless nothing gets better, then it's like this forever.
Yeah, then it'll be like this.
Then we're going to be the New World F1 sim racing cast, and heavily focused on all the things we keep putting at the end of our bullet point list that never gets to every episode.
Get talked about. Bro, you remember? You've said this before. You remember when we were going to try to keep these episodes to 30 minutes?
Fuck! I told you that when I first started doing when I first started wanting to get into podcasting, I listened to a podcast that was like, if you're getting into podcasting, try to keep your podcast less than 15 minutes long. It's like, I can't urinate in less than 15 minutes, let alone talk about any fucking thing I care about.
Yep.
So, there you go.
Yep. But thanks for hanging. Thank you for everybody. I mean, for the most part, most people that show up to the live and most of the people that comment on the comments are overwhelmingly positive. You get a lot of the negative.
We fucking love you.
For real. We really do love you. A lot of the negativity just comes from a few people that have to comment on everything. But like, for sure, like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, like it was encouraging to me that there were so many people in DMs, publicly on Twitter, just hitting us up and being like, yo, that last episode was really good. We couldn't agree more. And then the offering to help, like, you know what I mean? Like we said, if anything happens, we're probably a long way from it. But what that tells me is that there are a lot of people out there that share our thought process, which is like, I want this game to get better and I want to help. I want this game to get better and here's an idea. You know what I mean? There are a lot more people out there than Twitter or Reddit would like you to believe that are like, I want it to be better. Here's a criticism and, you know, an offer to help. So that was encouraging. So thank you guys all for that. We're excited. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, this is more for us than like, you know, I wouldn't expect next week there to be a Discord server and Nikita to be on the podcast. Like some of this stuff could be cool and might happen eventually, but you know, we're just kind of venting as it is right now. So, but thank you guys for hanging. We appreciate it. This will be live early next week on all of the platforms. And until then, we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.